Checking out Rivergate Mall in the Rivergate-Goodlettsville area for what's probably going to be the last time for me, and that's because it's being demolished later in the summer of 2025. They're undergoing a $350 million redevelopment project, and the mall is going to be no more. If you have lived in this area long enough, certainly if you grew up in like the 80s or in my case, the 90s and the early 2000s, Rivergate Mall, particularly if you live north of town, was a place that you probably frequented a lot, and I know it doesn't look like it now, given the fact that there's not a whole lot left in this mall, which is pretty sad, but also hence the redevelopment. It used to be a pretty bustling place. I remember coming here growing up a lot during the holidays, even during the summer when there wasn't much to do. We would go to the mall and hang out. And they had all sorts of things. They had toy stores. They had a great food court. I remember the cookie store back in the day that I used to frequent a lot. But now you walk in today, and it's been this way for a few years, where there's just nothing much in there anymore. And the foot traffic has not been very popular in here for a while. I'm walking through today as they're probably just a few weeks away from tearing this thing down, and just not very many people at all in here, and certainly not very many stores that are open. Although every time you come in here, I think the memories come back a little bit, whether that's stores back in the day, maybe some people that you were with, that you hung out at the Rivergate Mall with. I know even into high school, we came here to the Rivergate Mall that was probably about 15 minutes away from our high school where I grew up. So there are still some stores that are around that are familiar. We're coming up on one now, Spencer's, with that garage pulled down door. It's been there for a while, so still some stores in there that have been around, but few and far between as you head throughout the mall today. So the spot in front of J.C. Penney's is where we used to take pictures with Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, and there were several things on this side of the mall back when I was growing up in the 90s and early 2000s that were staples. You had, some shoe stores down here. You had Hollister and American Eagle, and you had, I think it was Sports Seasons, that was the name of it, at the end of this hallway down here where you got a lot of the sporting apparel. So this side of the mall brings back a lot of memories. I had never heard of this academy place. Apparently they do some jiu-jitsu in there, but it was really one of the only things that was still left around and open on this side of the mall. We're coming up on that little hut right there that almost kind of looks like a tiki hut that used to be the Hollister in the Rivergate Mall. So I remember walking into those stores in the early 2000s as you're a middle school kid, looking for all the cool Hollister attire at that point. But you get to the edge here in the end of the mall on this side, and just not a whole lot going on down here anymore. And again, you walking through, it brings back memories, but it's also sad kind of walking through here. There used to be a Lids over in this part of the mall where I got a bunch of my hats from that is also no longer in business as well. Obviously spent a lot of time in the food court if you grew up around and in this mall. I used to love the Petros chips and chili that was in here. It used to be located right here, and I would be a frequenter of that place. The Pyramids has been there for a while, where you can get kind of some gyros and some lamb and stuff like that. It was really, really good, and it's still there. So I've been to the Pyramids actually a few times over the course of the past few years. This restaurant here, the One Spunky Spud, I actually love. It's really, really good. Unfortunately, I think it just came in as the mall was kind of already dead at that point, so not a ton of people that I've met actually really know about it. But the food court used to be a hopping place. It had the Sbarro in there where you can get those huge slices of pizza, lots of different options that were in there. It had a cookie store right next to it. If memory serves me, I think at some point there was a Subway in here as well. So used to have kind of the place to be was this food court in Rivergate Mall. And as you were doing your shopping and going around and either taking pictures with Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny or whatever it was, like you could always come back to the food court and have some pretty good options. Not a ton that's left in there. I have had the Pepe's Mexican Express before, and it's pretty good. So if you can go check it out before they tear this thing down later in the summer of 2025, it would be great. But this has been the tour of Rivergate Mall.